TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm your host, TruthSeekah. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If you're listening live on YouTube or if you're listening to this on the podcasting end, welcome. We got an exciting show planned for you guys today. Can't go any further without saying thank you to all of the supporters, everybody who enables me to do what I do, to do the music and the podcast and bring all of this stuff to the table. I got to give a quick shout out to everybody supporting my work via Patreon. Thank you guys so much for making this possible. Quick shout out to some of the newest patrons within the last week or so. Going to read these names out right quick. We got Noah. Thank you for coming on, brother. Nehemiah Juarez, Scott, Laura Manson, Sydney John Ney, Sean Kieran, and Megan. Thank you guys for coming on board to support my work and enabling me to do this stuff. If you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography, which is 10 plus albums. You get access to the School of the Mystics. This is our Thursday night community session where we do different courses together and practice listening to our intuition and stepping out in faith. We get into prayer, we get into activation, all of these things in a safe environment, one-on-one, hands-on place, and it's been really good. So if you haven't had a chance to join us at the School of the Mystics, you get access to that as well, as little as $1 a month. Anything helps. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all the support. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah, and you get access to all of this cool stuff. Every time I release a new song, it's uploaded straight to there. We just put out a new song entitled Anahata, which is the sacred heart space, the heart chakra. Really good song. I'm proud of it. The snippets are out, all of that good stuff. Getting a lot of good feedback from that. So head on over there, check that stuff out. Thank you guys again for all of the support. Today's interview is going to be a good one. My guest today, I've been following her work for some time now. She is the great-granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower. And without further ado, Laura Eisenhower, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing really good. Been looking forward to this interview for a while, and glad we finally got the chance to connect.
Oh, I am too. Thank you so much for having me.
If I was to try to introduce you, like I could read a bio, for people who haven't heard of you, you can read the bio, but there's so much that you bring to the table. I was in Discord with my community a little while ago, and it's like, well, what does she do? Who is she? It's like, well, there's a lot. There's a lot we can get into. We can get into the off-world entity stuff. We can get into aliens. We can get into spirituality. We can get into crystals, astrology. so much stuff, so it's kind of hard to kind of tell your story or what you bring to the table, because it's a little bit of everything. I think you're very eclectic, but I told my friend straight up, I was like, well, she's pretty much a hippie at heart, so it's going to be a good conversation. We're gonna get into some good discussion here. So for those who don't know who you are, if you want to kind of give a little bit of background about who you are and what you bring to the table, that'd be an awesome place to start.
Yeah, I think you mentioned just the Eisenhower connection. He's my great grandfather, and so just since I was young, I was always wondering how I ended up in this family, and so I was always processing everything about kind of his administration. But I mean, that was kind of something that I ended up integrating into just a deeper soul journey that has to do with moving this planetary consciousness and humanity into ascension, along with a lot of other people, of course. I mean, it's encoded in all of our DNA to do this. So it's really about how can I help remind humans what they're really made of, how to be sovereign, and what is operating on the world stage that is compromising us. The different hidden agendas. We hear about conspiracy stuff. I've been studying that kind of stuff for forever. And how does that relate to like who we are and what our potential is? So I've just been an avid researcher. My background's in wilderness expedition leadership, but like I said, since I was a kid, I was just really processing all the time, just this mission that I have. And it really has to do with healing the earth grids, getting things out of reversals, breaking free of the controls, the social engineering, the mind control, multi-generational traumas connected to different world wars that have been fought, and things in our ancient history, like the Atlantean Cataclysm, the Lemurian Holocaust, and then everything before that, like the Lyran Wars, the Orion Wars, and the exploded planets of like Tiamat and Maldek. So I got into a lot of galactic history. And then my day job is I'm an astrologer and I do readings for people. You can find that on my website, cosmicgaia.org. And yeah, I've just been trying to figure it all out. Like, what is going on here? What was going on in his administration, which was pretty wild because he's a president that had a lot of contact, and a lot of things were hidden from us since the Second World War. And there was an infiltration of the Nazis through Project Paperclip. And so all these mind control projects and all sorts of stuff ended up coming into the United States, and secret space programs, infiltration of the defense departments. So in 2006, I was involved in a recruitment to go off planet that related to that stuff. And I blew the whistle in 2010 and began to be a public person, but it was mostly surrounding this recruitment that I went through that you can, Google, and there's plenty of information of that. But that's what really got me more into the public arena. But then I was able to bring in all this other stuff and all this other research in my greater mission, which it all, connects into. So that's it kind of in a nutshell.
The recruitment for something like that. And this was just something that kind of came to mind while I was stargazing a couple months ago during the new moon. We had a big CE5 thing that we did on our site. And the information came to me. We were seeing all these ships, man, all of this stuff out there. And, you got to think about the disconnect of like taking someone who has a regular job, a family, and things like that, and just putting them out there disconnected and telling them this type of narrative, or like trying to change the narrative of what's really going on, the space wars, the Star Wars, all of this kind of stuff. It almost seems, and I know there's stuff about this as well, where like you would kind of have to be born into that, so that doing even some of the evil stuff that the government is doing to humans on the planet, like some of the abductions and the MyLabs and stuff like that, it would seem like there would be some type of disconnect of people would have to nurse someone into that as they were born into it, taking them as children. Where where do you give off the inhibition? Where does that go? Like, okay, I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving everything I know to head to the stars, and like be okay with that and not feel depressed or miss Earth or something like that.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that have been yanked into projects at a very young age. My recruitment was different. It was just more, I was never in those projects or programs growing up. It was more, I was pre-targeted before birth, supposedly, to steer me onto a timeline that, to me, like a new world order timeline. Why would we evacuate Earth and colonize Mars and keep humanity in the dark and use their tax dollars and have all these little big black ops projects going on in order to establish this. And what happens to the surface population on Earth? And why are we evacuating? If there's superstorms, if there's cataclysms, well, there's things like HARP technologies, and we've got, the weather modification agendas. These could be all induced and artificial. So I started to get in touch with that, even though I didn't have all the research and information while I was going through it, trying to make a decision, because they were just really like inviting me and trying to convince me that it was for this leadership role and I needed to go and it was for my protection. And I was like, something's not right here. So the group that was connected to it, I did a lot of research on, and now you can find a lot of the stuff that I was feeling into on websites. They're called the Aviary, and they're associated with my labs, gang stalking, psychotronic weaponry, mind control. But they did that to my partner, who tried to pull me in. He was like their my lab, or he was their the person to control, to approach me to try and convince me to go. Because he had been dragged in at an early age. I somehow, missed all that. I think a lot of it is multi-generational. I think it's in the family. If you're in a military family, if you're associated with the Illuminati, if you're in those bloodlines, you're definitely targeted. You're definitely used. You're not going to have a normal life. And so I saw this invitation as an opportunity to blow the lid off these hidden agendas. Because I haven't been in, a my lab situation, but, Corey Good's a good friend of mine. He was brought in at the age of 6. I do readings and sessions for people that, have gone through all that. A lot of times there's multi-generational or trauma-based mind control. So you have alters, and when you go and serve, you're not really, you've been programmed to play this particular part. And then there's the 20 and back, where they actually age reverse you, and it's like you never went. It's so complex. Supposedly, some of them were up there for 17 years or 20 years and age regressed, like only 5 minutes went by. And it's crazy. And it's really hard for anybody to wrap their head around, unless you've met enough people and you've seen enough accounts and you've heard enough stories to begin to say, all right, maybe this is really true. The reason it was easy for me to say no to going to Mars is because I wasn't groomed. I had no inclination, except I knew since I was a kid that I had a mission here with Gaia. And so they just tried to convince me that the mission had to be on Mars, and, we'll take care of that later. But none of the recruiters wanted to talk to me directly. And that was a big red flag for me. So all I could do is follow emails and write down all the names that my partner was talking about, they all had cover careers. And finally I found the dirt on them, and they were connected to all this other stuff. But yeah, it's very complex. So you've got the ones that they're trying to just manipulate, the human race that they're trying to control and steer into an artificial timeline. And then you have the more concentrated versions of people that are being engineered to be super soldiers, genetically modified to, be hybrids or be in breeding programs. And I've never experienced anything like that. My only thing was the targeting to get me onto this timeline.
We've been kind of discussing that on the past couple episodes regarding the shadow people and the men with the top hats and the shadow beings and sleep paralysis and things like that. A lot of people have had that happen to them when they were little kids. You wake up and there's entities in the room being pinned down to the bed. I've had it happen. And the more you talk about it, the more people will feel comfortable and open with it. But it's something that changed their life when they were, anywhere from 4 years old to like 10 years old, having these crazy encounters in the middle of the night. And we've just been exploring the idea of, like, it almost seems like the people who are having this thing happen to them are people who were destined to kind of be healers, to bring light and healing to the earth, and almost like they're targeted as a child to stay away from spirituality or stay away from tapping into other realms, because there's these monsters there, or there's these dark entities waiting for you to cross over. Is there any connection there? Was that something that is like, whether it's done spiritually by just off-world entities or some kind of government program where they know who these people are, born into certain families or something like that?
Yeah, I think they can really track souls, and even Aleister Crowley did sort of rituals where you could capture a soul. That's why they call it monarch programming, because it's like catching it with a net and bringing it into sort of a ritual setting so that like it's born right into this scenario and then programmed or abused. I've had clients that were born into it and were dragged in later by some family member that was really sick and twisted, that did all this experimentation on them, put them through all these different trials and tribulations. And sometimes they're just watching and observing the effects that some of these experiments have, especially if it's an advanced child that knows how to heal instantly. Like, you can burn it and they can heal their skin. So they're trying to understand, how does somebody able to do this? And then you have other scenarios. I mean, there's so many multiple scenarios. Then, it's like all these implants, abduction scenarios where there's implants, so that you're getting artificial telepathy or signals that are going to impede your spiritual growth. There are implants that we all carry from Atlantean times that are ethereal implants that are supposedly at the base of our skull, which I've seen doing readings to keep us from moving into our galactic chakras, so that we keep looping and reincarnating sort of in this trap, in this 3D trap. There's the off-planet abduction scenarios and the military involvement that can create false memories, so that a person thinks that they're having an abduction, but it's not really an abduction. It's just a military thing. They can actually clone or engineer beings to represent what would seem to be real aliens, but they're not. And then people have real encounters, and they, track those people to wipe their memories to give them a different experience, so that they don't remember the contact that they had with a higher benevolent being. Because there's a lot of people that are connected to these higher councils or these higher ET groups that they're tracking, so that they don't remember those experiences, so that they don't advance as a spiritual being. And then, of course, we have weather modification. We have fluoride in our water. We have GMOs and vaccinations and everything that we see being done to the human population. So, it's a mass targeting of the human population. But then, yes, there's people of interest or people that are threats or souls that they recognize as high vibrational beings that, are going to be messed with. And it usually does start in childhood. Mine was mostly weaponry. I've had a few contact experiences. They seem to be of a sort of a higher nature. And I did a little bit of regression to see if, anything else happened. But I think for the most part, it's really rampant and widespread. And that's why it's so important to talk about it. Indigo and crystal kids, advanced children being born, and that's also what we see in school systems with, the prescription drugs that they're pushing on people. Yeah. So this is a time for us to really wake up and recognize what's going on. Pedophilia rings are being busted. Hollywood pedophilia is being busted. Political crimes and, child trafficking, pedophilia, rampant everywhere, being busted. So this is a real chance to begin to neutralize some of this weaponry and some of these implants, because we're beginning to see beyond the programming. Most of those implants and most of those assaults is to keep us locked into the trance. Yeah. And once we can see above that, we actually can easily neutralize these things, because our higher frequency and higher dimensions, it has way more power over these lower frequency devices that they use and technologies that they use. Because basically it's a frequency war. And if we can get our attention above that, it sort of fries it and it dismantles it.
When we look at like Hollywood and stuff, I remember like all of the movies when I was a kid, Fire in the Sky. I mean, that's the big one, but there were so many of them about on these TV shows, Taken, about these aliens who are going to come and abduct you, take you off planet and kidnap you, beat you up, and maybe never bring you back. There was always a fear there, but there was always a fascination there for me when I was a kid. So when I got into the spiritual work and then got into seeing light ships and making contact and things like that, it was always there in the back of my head that you better be careful. They may come get you. So it's like something that they're trying to push out there to create fear and hysteria within that community, so that when you see these lights in the sky, when you see these cloud ships or whatever they are, you won't try to shine a flashlight at it. You won't try to blink your headlights at it and try to make contact, that you'll be afraid. And so even some of the most beautiful encounters, when it comes down to it, there's still like this fear that we have to get over there. There's so many people who are still afraid of it. They want it, but the fear is there from all of these movies, The Fourth Kind and all of the stuff that's just been pushed out there through Hollywood. Is that part of the agenda to kind of keep us away from making contact?
I think it's also a weird form of disclosure. It's like, I mean, we have a mixed bag here where there's, definitely dark agendas. There's, there's beings that are trying to heal themselves. They consider themselves a dying race. They're digressing. They use technologies to keep their life cycle alive. They need humans to help them. They need to take our genetic information, because in a way there are future human selves that made choices that caused digression. So there's sort of this thing going on, but when they represent it as way scarier than it actually is, it can, I think, create a lot more fear. Absolutely. But I think everybody's kind of going to have different experiences. I've done readings with people that have had hostile gray abductions and ones that just say it was a peaceful, wonderful experience. The thing is, they can implant memories too. So, I mean, I like to expose the whole deal. I mean, there are things to be concerned about. There's things that we need to do to protect ourselves. But when those are the only messages we're getting and we don't see the larger picture, which is that there's way more benevolent beings out there than not, then I think we just close ourselves off completely. Or we might just look at it all as just sci-fi fantasy, or just some sort of, I mean,
well,
it's
they
kind of
get the
hard to
sci-fi
say.
fantasy from somewhere. Like, that's not original material. Everything we see, like in Star Wars and all of that kind of stuff, they take that from the ancient text and what's actually going on. It's all encoded. They're just they're almost just like plagiarizing this stuff, you know?
Well, that's the thing. It's like religion. You can take stories that once existed and shift them and twist them, so that when we're trying to get or gain our galactic memories again, we're referring to a movie we saw instead of what's really authentic within ourselves. And that's the thing with anything. Like,
It can help too, though, right?
it can, but one has to be sovereign enough and have enough downtime away from the movies and away from the electronics to be able to really think for the self. Because if it's just constantly being in that trance, it doesn't give us enough time to kind of meditate on what actually exists within us, you know, where we can capture our own soul journey and the beings that we used to associate with and the ones that we used to work with. Because normally we're not going to have an experience unless there's some sort of agreement, unless we're connected somehow to that group, unless we need to experience it in order to overcome it. Because light workers or warrior spirits tend to come in to take on the challenges and the difficulties in order to rise above it to help the rest of humanity. It's very hard to be a warrior without getting immersed in the darkest of things that are happening. How else can we help people to wake up? So I think some people experience break the programming of it to invite other people to recover, because there's millions of abductees, but some are able to be conscious of what's happening. They're able to recall, they're able to remember, they're able to see beyond it. They're able to get to the other side. Most of the negative, I would say, is military connected, manipulated. The reptilian aspect now, that would probably be the most aggressive race when we're talking the Draco reptilians. But that's like something that's playing on bloodlines in order to try and dupe humanity. So it's just really up to us to not fall into the program. Otherwise, I don't think they can really touch us. I mean, they can have the artificial intelligence and manipulate, but and yes, they use different beings to, you know, create certain abduction scenarios, but we have to remember the military component and just keep our minds open. I mean, I can't say I have all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm still always trying to sort it out, but all I know is there's far more benevolent races. They're helping us with this ascension. They're guardian host races of this ascension. The ascension moved in 2010 from the Melchizedek hosting to the Andromedan, more goddess energies of the earth that got grounded back into the earth. Crystal Star hosting the Aurora and all these Andromedan groups, because really this ascension window is the galactic core of Milky Way and Andromeda being one again. So we're starting to be able to activate our higher chakras. So anything that's been negative or nefarious is doesn't hold much of a chance. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think Hollywood shows certain truths that are important, because there are negative races, there's positive races, just like humans. There's criminals and there's good people, but there's always going to be a twist to it that dramatizes it or makes it difficult to get, the real facts. And sometimes, there's total disclosure that's because in the Illuminati's mind, they want everything to be hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
So that they don't have the karmic backlash. That's why they use people. If they can get other people to do their dirty work, then the people doing their dirty work have to pay the karmic debt, not them. That's their belief. But that's not true, because of the level of abuse that they perpetuate on people. But that's a whole nother story, and just kind of like how to process that one, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the movie industry is filled with pedophilias too, and pedophilia. And it's just kind of a mind control thing. But again, just like with anything, there's stuff coming out of the woodworks that we see in movies that give us a glimpse of what truth is. And then our job is to go back, meditate on it, and find the authenticity within ourselves of what that really means.
When it comes to getting a crazy feedback right now. I don't know if your speakers are loud or if it's something on my end.
Oh, can you not hear me okay?
I can hear me when I talk. Check.
Oh.
1 2 2. Okay, I think that's better. When it comes to the abduction scenarios, that's something that, from my studies and from what I've seen as of lately, like, it's kind of being phased out. I know you talk to a lot more people than I do, so you may have more info on this. But as far as like aliens appearing in your room, taking you and doing all of these experiments on you and things like that, like the fire in the sky type stuff or whatever, I really haven't heard much about that or seen stuff about that since like the early 90s and 80s and stuff. And so like what I'm hearing now, when someone has an encounter, it's more, they don't really call themselves abductees. They call themselves contactees or experiencers as well. And they almost welcome the contact as well. Are you seeing that at all? Or is the abduction thing still going on? I mean, I talked to James Gilliland and he said that was, kind of being phased out.
Seems like it's being phased out. I mean, I still have clients that talk about it, or have had recent experiences, or still getting over some of their experiences. I mean, the thing is that I hate to say is a lot of it was a breeding thing, a breeding program. They might have everything that they need. They don't need to do anymore. I mean, there's underground bases. There's, filled with the results of some of these abductions and things going on off planet. Same thing. Again, there's a huge military component to it. Now, I mean, some of the things that I'm getting, a lot of harassment, a lot of targeting more. I think we're starting to see the military part of it and the manipulation of it, coming out a little bit more. There's different levels of this breeding program where some are just willingly just creating hybrid babies, and some that feel like they've been completely violated. And I almost think it depends on the agreements in the person and what they can and cannot handle, or what they're remembering or not remembering. But I do think it's phasing out, and there's a lot more positive contact. Even Travis Walton said that the way they depicted his encounter in the movie was not accurate. They made it a lot scarier than it actually was. I mean, there's interesting things that I'm hearing, but I wouldn't say that I'm getting a whole lot of clients that speak about current stuff. So I totally agree with that. When I first started to do readings, it was very much about what was currently happening. Like a person might have just had an experience. A lot of my friends that have had, who are experiencers, don't really have them anymore. So, yeah.
That's awesome that you say that everybody has something encoded within their DNA to bring forth to help humanity. Like it's all there, because like I was doing personal sessions with people for a while, and everyone that came to me wanted to be a healer. Like they wanted to do that for a profession. They wanted to get out of their 9-to-5 and do their passion. They wanted to essentially do what I was doing. And, the message that I got from the spirit was, heal the healers. Everyone who's coming to you is going to be a healer. Heal the healers to send them out and go forth and bring healing to the nations, essentially. And I'm seeing this in everyone. So whenever you said that, it's more of just like, instead of thinking it's only a few chosen people, to everyone has that within them, that they can, take the path of the Jedi versus the Sith or whatever. It's like this path that we have to choose, and it's throughout all religion. It's throughout the hero's journey. It's throughout the Egyptian mysteries and things like that. That you have to make these choices to become that person. If you're going to be good or bad, essentially, you're going to bring love and light, or service to others, or service to self or whatever. It's that choice that we have to make. What are some of the things that you think people can do to kind of lean more to the path of the good versus evil, whether it's tapping in through spirituality, being mindful, breath work, crystal energy, just healing themselves, trauma, regression, things like that, to kind of get to kind of heal themselves so that they can bring healing to others.
Wow, that was all really well put too. Yeah, well, I mean, we all have the potential of 12-strand DNA and beyond. We're floating in the lower levels of our DNA expression. That's why people call it a 3D Earth, because on a DNA level, we're not vibrating much higher because it's a program. It's a 3D program. Many of us are beyond that, though. Our consciousness is beyond it. But to bring it into the physical needs to upgrade. So we need to integrate. We need to integrate higher awareness into our physical reality. We can't just go back and forth between, okay, you know, we have these insights and epiphanies and awarenesses, but then we're living a life that contradicts it. We don't like our job. We're serving something that does not really help humanity. We're in toxic relationships. We might be stuck in addiction. So we have to really look at how can we integrate this higher awareness into our physical reality in order to heal the physical. And that's a clearing of the root chakra. You know, this whole bouncing back and forth between higher and lower self needs to stop. We need to integrate polarity. We need to bring balance to the masculine and feminine. We need to bring the light and dark together, because the real dark is like the soil. It's like the womb. And then the higher light are like seeds, and we plant them in the soil and it grows new life, and we become manifestors and co-creators of our reality. So we have to keep our creative channels clear by setting strong intentions for ourselves, making agreements with ourselves. This is what I devote to. This is what I want. This is who I want to be in the world. And then we start to encode our creative energies with things that will help us with synchronicities. It'll help to guide us towards the healing modalities that are really in resonance with us. It'll help us to find the people that support our journey. The problem is people make it about God or Lucifer or the devil. You know, people are making choices based on something external. Oh, I don't believe in God, and, you know, religion has screwed up God, and so therefore I'm going to turn to the dark side. Or it's just like, forget it. It's like, be sovereign, connect to the 0 point energy, connect to source. It doesn't have to be about the religions and what religion has done, because there's imposters. They're not real. They create
just like in the UFO community, right? They're doing, you know, they're trying to change the scenario or change the narrative, when they're taking something that I believe is good, I believe is beautiful, or started out that way, and they're trying to change the narrative a little bit so that whenever you think about it, you're going back to the trauma or the preconceived notion, whether it's religion, whether it's aliens, whether it's all men are pigs, all men are jerks, or whatever the case is. You have this preconceived idea that's not true. You know, they change the narrative on you.
Right. And then that creates rebellion, or, well, I'm going to go to that side then. It's like, why do you have to go to any side? Why can't you find that inner balance and the source within yourself and the divine blueprint within yourself, and just be somebody that just doesn't need any of it? You know, we have light and dark within us, but how can we integrate it and manage it and drop the need to join a cult, join a group, find, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with community and this and that, but when it's based on belief systems that ask you to do something because something else didn't work, or you're angry at something else, then you're not really in your heart center. You're not really activating your DNA at all. Instead, you're feeding some deity or some satanic network or something, you know, that is compromising humanity just out of some level of victimhood or anger because you don't like religion. It's like, hey, I don't resonate with religion at all, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to be a spiritual being. Nobody needs to join the dark side or the side of light. Join yourself, integrate both polarities, you know, stand in your truth, allow yourself to be human. You know, when anger comes up, look at it, ask it what it wants, turn it into your passion, because that's where your mission resides. If you feel depression, ask yourself, where is that coming from? It might reveal to you what your deeper soul longing is. You know, oh, well, I'm looking for love, or I need this, or I'm sad about that. I didn't like the way I was raised. Well, you know, there's spiritual community. There's connecting to the earth. There's connecting to the internal mother, father. There's ways to take the things that we struggle with and flip it over. That's the whole thing with correcting reversals, correcting the elementals that have been in reversal mode, where we haven't had connection with the ether, because that was all manipulated. The earth grids have been manipulated, and everything has been put in dark reversal, so that our elemental energy, earth, air, fire, water, has been contaminated. Our earth energy is degraded and become depleted. Our fire energy is turned into like anger and rage or abuse. Our water energy is turned into murky, contaminated depression. I'm saying that that's what they want. Our air quality is like, chemtrails, mind control, all these things being emitted from cell towers in our phones. And we have to look at those elements and get them back and purify them with spirit. And it doesn't have to be a religious thing. I mean, it's our birthright. We have direct connection with this in our DNA. And then we purify the elements. And then we recognize our water energy is psychic and clear and like the healing waters, our ability to have compassion and empathy. Our earth energy starts to regenerate. We start to advance our human vessel. We're able to move from carbon-based to crystalline. We heal the fire elements. We step into our passion. We feel motivated again, and we heal the air, and we get rid of the mind control. We can become free thinkers again. So we're all sort of purifying our inner elements, and then the earth is going to respond to us. And that's how we clean the oceans. That's how we clean the sky. That's how we help the earth to regenerate. By taking it upon ourselves to be the example. And then we start to shift into higher earth energies, but it's based on our DNA activating, because our DNA holds the harmonic universes and the higher dimensions. So when we start to switch on the strands, we actually start to experience a higher earth, and it's not about floating away. It's a very grounded experience, because the activations come from the core center of the earth and from above, but it's the soul architecture, and it's also the energetic energies that we carry already within ourselves. We're a replica of it all. We're a replica of the multidimensional cosmos, the earth grids, and the stargates. We're not separate from that. The programming and the mind control has separated us from it. That's why artificial timelines can steer people off that path, because it disconnects us from nature. It disconnects us from spirit, because this war within religions, this competition, this conquer and divide agenda to keep us separate. And then these belief systems that come out of it, where we're like blaming each other or our ancestors for these wars. But it was all set up so that in this window period, we would not be able to come together, because this was the crucial window period that they've been preparing for, just as much as people like us have been preparing too for lifetimes.
That's good, man. You said a mouthful. Definitely talking about the depression and stuff. And I felt that coming for me. I next month I would be 1 year into doing this full time, doing this in my music. And what I felt before going into that, I was on the cusp of something. I was on a precipice of something happening, but there was depression kicking in. There was autopilot. I was just on default, because I wanted more than anything. Begin to get envious of seeing other people doing what they loved for a living. And there was depression and all of this stuff. And I don't care what it was. I don't care. Like, I have friends who are tattoo artists, but they wake up and love what they're doing. My wife gets up every morning and goes work out in the heat, but she works with horses and disabled children. She loves what she's doing. She's bringing healing to humanity, and all of these people doing what they were put here to do. And that depression and the dis-ease that you're feeling within that is an indicator that you need to find out what's the root of that, what's causing that. Working at a dead-end job, building someone else's dream, and doing that. And so that right there, man, just the beautiful energy to be around someone who loves what they're doing, or they know who they are and they know why they're here. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is that you love and you thrive doing it, and it makes your heart tick. That's beautiful. And so I'm about a year in just doing this full time now. And I've shifted so much. So, and I try to coach people on how to do that, follow that voice, get that dream, and how to make it manifest. There's several comments here in the comment section. People are wanting some information on the blood types. There's a lot of stuff out there coming out about the blood types, about certain blood types being not from Earth, being from other planets. Type O negative, I think it is they're saying is not from Earth. And even when it comes to diet's been a tricky one when it comes to the blood types as well. Everyone trying to push this is the way to eat. This is the model on how to eat. But there's a lot of research now that's showing that certain blood types need other things in their diet to function properly. But as far as the blood types, and because people are like, okay, I'm O negative. Am I from another planet? Who am I? You know what I'm saying? So people are wanting some more information on that. Talk a little bit about what you know about the different blood types.
Yeah, I might not answer this very well because I used to do a lot of research on it. There's a lot of contradictory information, and then just tapping into my own intuition about it. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just your soul history. I mean, if you think about it, I came in as a Caucasian, whatever, right? But it doesn't mean I didn't have lifetimes where I was African American or Native American or some other race, right? So just because I came in this form and this body doesn't completely give my soul history as far as what my form has been. And I think the same thing can go with like blood type. I know it's a little bit different. I think it has more to do with what you've grown accustomed to and what your blood has become. If you've incarnated on the earth for a really, really long time, or if you're kind of tracking back to a previous lifetime where you're on earth, but was off planet for a while, based on the frequency that you came in and chose to carry, you're going to have that blood type. Everybody has galactic ET-DNA, but what are the conditions of our past lives and our past experience that is going to give us, that imprint? So, like when reading past lives and stuff, people, are from all over the place. But when you look at an astrology chart, the South Node gives us an idea of maybe like the themes of the past 5 lifetimes, the things that you've sort of repeated, the patterns that you've repeated for quite some time that you come in with. That's an energy signature. Then your North Node is, well, where do you need to take it in order to evolve, in order to do what you came here to do? So everybody's going to have a different South Node. It's going to have different conditions. But just because their last 5 lifetimes was like that doesn't mean that the 10 before it weren't drastically different. So just because somebody has O negative in this lifetime doesn't mean that they didn't experience an earth blood type, that grounded them much more to the earth. Maybe they left for a while in their last 5 lifetimes, they were off planet and it morphed their blood into like an O negative. I mean, that's kind of a theory, right? I have no proof on that. But what I'm thinking is nothing's really fixed when it comes to us. We need to have all different sorts of experiences so that we can step into our multidimensional awareness. We might have B positive and, have that nomadic type blood that requires this kind of food in a past life. But in this lifetime, because we were off planet for a while, maybe, quite a while, we've changed. I mean, if we can change physical form and be different genders throughout our lifetimes, we've been men, we've been women, we've been animals, probably dolphins, we've been maybe even an elemental or a fairy or in Middle Earth, or, Gandalf himself. I don't know. It's just, we've been all these different things and everybody's so unique, like a snowflake. There's no real, I think, general way that one can put it. But I would say that just because you came in with a particular blood type doesn't mean that's the only thing you've ever carried throughout your history. Then there's the blue blood factor. How much copper is in your blood? What is the consistency of your blood based on who you were born into? Some people are going to be born into families where, you might be positive, but they're negative and your mom has to have a shot so her immune system doesn't destroy you, right? So then it looks like you're like the kid in the tribe that's going to change the vibration. What does that mean for future generations, right? They might have been at a different point in that ancestral line. They might not have ever been in that ancestral line. So just like with abduction scenarios and agreements that we have with off-planet entities or subterranean cultures, every single person's different and has a unique soul journey. And that's, I guess, a really complicated way to answer it. But the negative tends to be related to off-planet stuff. It's very hard to, I think it's hard to clone RH negative, but it's easy to abduct because there's already this off-planet connection. I think the positives are easier to clone because they're more earth-based. I don't know. But again, our consciousness is always much bigger than our physicality. What I was going to say, one more thing on this. I think I lost my train of thought. But the food thing. That's what's so ridiculous about certain people that eat a certain way. When they get in your face about it, like vegans or, it's just like, just hush it already. You sound like you're like a cult leader here. People need to feel into what their body needs. And it's really important to do the research once you find out your blood type, what kind of foods are good for you. I read that book and I remember in my head, oh, I need to avoid that. That doesn't do well for me. So I think it's just kind of a mixed bag, but if you're RH negative, I think you're going to be relating more to something off planet, but I wouldn't say that necessarily means you've never had earth-based lifetimes. But at the same time, you might never have. But everybody's different. I've seen all sorts of things. I've been doing readings for 20 years. It's like, oh, you were on Earth for this song and then you took off. You've been gone for a while. Now you're back. But see, I don't do blood tests. So it's not like, I'm comparing it and I have like the science of it all figured out. But just because of the randomness with everything else and the fact that we can be different genders and different, and manifest and incarnate in all these different forms, I wouldn't say that whatever we are, we always have been. But I think our soul has been consistent. Like, I know I've been on this mission for thousands of years. I've taken different forms though, but I've had the same mission. And I think as a humanity, we all carry a very similar mission. It's to be sovereign, to be able to be fully all that we are, to help this earth to move into higher earth energies. So I don't have a mission that's unusual at all.
Yeah.
It's just I'm awakened to it just like you.
And you're open to talk about it. That's the biggest thing. There's a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who have a lot of knowledge, whether it was came through meditation, experience, will, studying, all of this stuff, but they are too afraid to speak about it. They want to with all their heart, but because of family, friends, their job situation, they can't. I was, graced enough to just not care about that and know that this stuff was so important, not to keep to yourself or whatever it is, whether it was like psychedelic experiences or whatever the case is. And they were scared to talk about, okay, if I talk about my psychedelic experience, then my boss finds out, I'm done. I'm promoting drug use or saying what I'm doing on the weekends or whatever, and I'm done. So I've been one to kind of just like, it was so important for me, like to keep it to myself. I would be doing a disservice to humanity, something that can potentially heal you, cure depression, all types, help you achieve your dreams, all of this kind of stuff. So it's those people who face the ridicule, which is going to come with it. You talk openly about all the ridicule and the messages and the comments and stuff. You have to use wisdom about which people to respond to and who really is just being a troll. You have a lot of those, but being okay with who you are and being vulnerable and being authentic. Okay, this is me. This is what I bring to the table. You don't like it. There's other people you can follow. There's other videos, whatever the case is. But if this is for you, then let's build, and I have something for you. I'm just going to share my story and what's working. And that's the beautiful thing. I think everybody needs to be there regardless of whatever your truth is. If it's working for you and you're helping people and you're making other people's walk a little bit easier, whether you're doing the energy work, you're doing the healing and things like that, then that's what I definitely encourage. When it comes to having encounters, you mentioned fairies and the elementals and things like that. Have you had any encounters with any on the planet with anything like that, any of the elemental spirits, whether even through meditation or you can feel them or see them in the wind blowing, or any of those experiences through meditation or anything like that?
Yeah, well, especially when I was a kid, I was just like, I lived in nature. I was like in this other dimension. Then when I went into wilderness expedition leadership, and I was just had a lot of downtime, and I could just wander off into the desert, and I would have just really interesting dreams and just visions, and just I could see more than what was there. Just diving into the ocean and just anchoring the boats at night, and it's just like this whole other world was opening up to me, which is a lot of why I do the work that I do and have really come to understand Gaia. I have just so many past lives of being in just these higher earth dimensions where the elementals were alive. And I went to a clairvoyant institute for 2 years, and they're like, oh yeah, you're a fairy queen in this lifetime, and you could just disappear into the woods and open up a portal or open up a Stargate, and you would never need to see a human again because you would. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like trying to open it up, not happening. It's okay. I'm supposed to be here right now. I mean, this is the thing. We all have access to this as multidimensional beings. And I love what you just said about being authentic and true to yourself, because you can't unlock these other dimensions without that. I mean, I think part of the reason why later on in life it got a little hard for me is because I started to go into the underbelly to start to expose the really, really dark stuff. And that takes a lot of attention. Yeah. It's really hard to be in the fairy realms, while you're busting satanic networks, right? Like, so a portion of my life has gone into this sort of low density with as high a vibration as I can get. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so painful and so difficult. But I think until that completes itself, and enough of that is getting brought out in the open, which it is, people are sharing this news right and left, and there's whistleblowers, there's insiders. I mean, there's hundreds of people that are exposing this stuff. So I feel like, I can take a deep breath and kind of step back. And in meditation, it's very possible, doing detoxes is really good too, to start to move the heaviness out. And, just know it's there. It's real. So a lot of my research and a lot of the presentations I do are about those kingdoms, are all, about Avalon, Lemuria, Atlantis, even the higher realms before we sank into this lower density. So I know I have really, really strong memories. I definitely have visions when I was a kid. I have amazing dreams. I used to have a lot more magical dreams. I know I'm heading back to more of it. And like I said, my energy's been more concentrated on a lot of this exposure stuff, but it's not for some, it's for all. I mean, we all have potential, to reach into this. And the fears about, what others might think, it's a really important thing to move through, because that ends up, really what it represents is a block within yourself, because you can move on from all that stuff and rebirth your whole life on your own terms. I know you did that. I did that. I hit the road and I car camped. I just got away from everything for like a year or two. I lived very simply. I was on food stamps for quite a while so that I could afford it. Just sort of develop skills that I could eventually, generate a little bit of funds for. And now, it's like, it's so surreal, because I was really struggling financially. I was leaving all those jobs and all those things that didn't allow me to be who I am. All the people that looked at me like I was silly or crazy. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. And, now I'm going to China at the end of November with, people that I've read books on or researched, and I'm doing it. And if I can do it, if you can do it, anybody can do it.
Yep.
And the thing is, depression and anger are symptoms of needing to look at that for what it is, to start to move in the direction of your true calling.
Yep.
Don't look at it like there's something wrong with me. It's a healthy response to the desecration of all that's sacred in the world. It's a healthy response to the BS we're born into, to feel depression, to feel anger. But that's not the destination. That's a symptom to be looked at, because it holds the key to your freedom. So allow yourself to leverage those difficult emotions and feelings. That's why I give readings, because that's what I work on with people. Just to throw that in.
That's awesome. I agree with that 100%. A couple more questions here. We're talking about exposing some of the dark networks and satanic stuff going on. Been a lot of stuff in the news lately with the alternative media news with Gaia TV. I watched your presentation or your discussion with Alfred Weber on exopolitics and stuff. So I watched that. I haven't been following it too close. I've heard a little bit of stuff about David Wilcock leaving and stuff. Gaia has been called the sugar daddy of the New Age movement. I've heard someone say that they have all the money to fund whatever you want to do, essentially. What's going on with Gaia? I know people have been blowing the whistle since they got big. Like now, a lot of people are starting to jump ship. There's a lot of stuff going on with some of the employees. What do you know that's going on with that?
Well, there's a Luciferian component. I think they're linked into what's going on with Denver Airport, like underground bases. That's what I've heard. There's just a lot of misuse of power, manipulation, control, abusive treatment of employees. So the GEM movement, which is Gaia Employee Movement, have been sending cryptic messages to my friend Patty Greer about what's really going on there. It sort of forced David Wilcock to, just break ties. He probably, or hopefully was going to do it anyway. I can't imagine why somebody would stick with that if they knew it was going on. And so they're all kind of stepping away and backing down from it. And, a letter from David Wilcock came out and just basically revealed everything and his feelings on it, which is, he's absolutely not Luciferian. I know him and he's a good man and he cares about humanity. So what I think is they ended up creating contracts, or they joined, and then over time, that Luciferian component began to take over. And again, it's not about the entity; it's just about what Luciferians do. Yeah. That's, because I'm not into like getting into all that part of it. Because to me, it's all part of our soul architecture. We all have these archetypes that we have to contend with. But when a person chooses those names and these are the practices that go along with it, that's the disturbing part. So, when we look at Luciferianism, we see cases of pedophilia associated with people that claim to be Luciferian. We see cannibalism even, and these mind control projects and just all sorts of really dark things. So that's all coming down. People are walking away, unsubscribing. I mean, and Hollywood's being outed too. So all these different power structures that are trying to run things, they don't really stand a chance. But what's interesting is that they got their grips and hooks into the disclosure movement, which is all about trying to disclose this stuff. So there's disclosure within the disclosure movement.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So I ended up kind of getting into all this because Patty was sending me all these emails from Jem, and then I got the David Wilcock letter, and then all of a sudden, I'm verifying with people that work for Gaia that this is true. So if anybody's thinking, well, maybe this is a psyops, no, it actually is true. I have it firsthand. I have to keep those names quiet, but yeah. So that one's falling apart too. So this is like really, really good news. If we're getting it in politics, Hollywood, and the disclosure movement, we have nowhere else to go but to emerge very clean and clear from all these different influences that are using children and their life force to feed so that they gain power, so they gain influence, so they gain wealth, to infiltrate, which is the name of the game. They've been infiltrating everything for thousands of years. The Templars, the Masons, I mean, any well-intentioned group ended up getting infiltrated. But we got to look at those groups. What was the weak spot that allowed those infiltrations to come in? That's what we got to do when we look at ourselves. How can we protect ourselves? We need to be real solid, real connected, real grounded, and real true to who we are. If we don't know who we are, we simply just need to show up as honest as we can with ourselves until we clear out the toxicity, the programmings, and the contamination to get to the true core source of our true nature and what it means to be ourselves. And sometimes we don't have a label or an identity, and that's great. I only do because I kind of have to. Like, okay, Laura, what's your title? I'm like, global alchemist. I don't know. Like,
make it up.
It's like a guidance counselor's not going to tell me I'm a global alchemist, but what the hell am I doing? I'm just trying to turn the lead of this human experience into gold again, because it's all within us. There's no chosen ones. Every single person has that capacity in their DNA, and DNA damage and genetic mutations can be healed.
You were just recently at Contact in the desert. Seems like you had a really good time. How was that experience for you?
I mean, it was great. It's my 5th year. It was at a different location. I know Gaia TV had a huge position there. I mean, I was happy with the turnout. Seeing friends and colleagues is always really fun. I think it's a great venue. Hopefully it'll be cleared of any kind of weirdness that might be there, because there's a lot that's trying to hook into these events.
I would imagine.
A lot of directed energy weapons that have happened before at some of these events. But I love Contact in the Desert. I'm always grateful to be a part of it. So yeah, I did a workshop, a lecture, and a panel, and I had so much fun with people. Played ping pong with Nick Pope. It's just like how random and funny. Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun. I saw Edge of Wonder there. I don't know if you guys have seen their YouTube channel.
I've watched your interviews there. Those
They
guys
just
are really cool, man.
Pull it together great. And I'm so happy to be exposed to you. I mean, I love what you're doing and your knowledge base, and it's awesome. So, I mean, this is the best part of it, is meeting new people and seeing how people are living their truth and their passion, and they're helping to get the truth out there. So there's a lot of that.
It's contagious, man. Like when you're around people living their truth and being okay with it, it kind of moves you to jealousy. It moves you to envy, but you have to catch it. I feel like we're supposed to, like, even with alchemy, do something good with it. Okay, you're jealous. Why are you jealous? Okay, because they get to wake up and do what they love for a living. Okay, what can you do to stop that? You can either stay jealous, let it move into bitterness and, woe is me or whatever. That's not going to help. What can you do with the jealousy and the envy that's coming? Well, you can try to do what they're doing. What did they do to start walking in their calling? What can you do to start walking in your dream? And so it's contagious. Like, I would listen to podcasts. I have friends who were healers and they did yoga and breath work, and then they're hip hop artists, and they do it. They get to wake up, and their job for the day was to work on a new song or whatever. And now that's my job. And that seemed like something that was so far away that I could never obtain it. It was, not possible financially. It wouldn't bring in enough money. Nobody buys albums anymore. They download music free, all this stuff. But it's to get that vision, be consistent, and whatever makes your heart tick, man. Like I said, if it's a tattoo artist, I would go get tattooed and see those guys love to do what they're doing, love to create, love to do art and stuff, or what that expression, and it's contagious. You gotta like make a choice eventually. You're just gonna be mad and bitter and like, man, I wish I could do what y'all are doing. Just do it.
Yeah, totally. And this is I have on my website, if you scroll down to the bottom of the home page, you can subscribe to my newsletter, and for $4.99 a month, I will do mini sessions, one mini session each month, and I put out astrological reports. And the mini sessions are really, what is your mission? What is your passion? What's getting in the way? Being able to look at the astrology, you can see the blocks, you can see the unconscious blocks, you can see the fears, you can see, you can understand like how you tick, what's getting in the way, and what's available, what is the potential. Everybody's got avatar consciousness potential in their chart. I've never seen a chart that doesn't hold that potential, but how can one get there and change their life so that they can step into their mission? So if people out there that are listening are like, oh, I want to feel free, I want to be doing what I love to do, I would recommend maybe subscribing, because you get a phone call with me and you can see how the stars are affecting you. You can ask me any question. There's discounts for some of my longer readings.
Yeah.
And it's all geared towards exactly what you're saying. How can you turn that jealousy or envy or being like, how come they can do it and I can't?
Yeah.
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like you. I was stuck in, I don't quite know your full story, so I won't say that, but I was stuck in jobs. I mean, I was jobs that, some of them I really did. Like, I love landscaping and I love some of the other things. I like interacting with people and this and that. But I mean, it was like, I'm not going to survive my path. It'd be even surreal or a miracle if I even get to talk about my mission. I never imagined that it would end up where it did, but I had visions and a knowingness that it needed to.
Yeah.
Not so much in the speaking so much and being so exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really thinking like I'd be such a maybe public type person. But if you have the vision, your creative energy is already on it and it's working on your behalf to manifest it. But you have to be willing. You just have to be willing to not give up. It's pretty wild. But yeah, I was just like, if I live to tell the tale of my mission and path, I mean, it's going to not even be a miracle. It's like, because sometimes we're in the underworld. We don't have any help. You have to find your own light in the most horrific darkness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what my book's about, going into the underworld, not even feeling like there's a spiritual presence there to help. Why? Because, oh my gosh, it's right inside of me. And this is an initiation for me to understand that it's inside of me. It doesn't mean that it's not outside of me anymore, because it's a part of the multidimensional cosmos and Earth. But there's certain initiations we go through that throw us into some of the most horrific things so that we can recognize in that space what we're truly made of. And if we don't, we become victims, we become bitter, we can even turn to evil.
Yeah, that will drive you to evil. Yeah. Cain and
so
Abel. I
remember,
mean, just looking at the story, the archetype of Cain and Abel, jealous of his brother. Oh, he gets all the good stuff. Oh, he's the beloved. Why am I not the beloved? Why doesn't God help me? Why doesn't Gaia TV help me? People can look at you where you are now and think that you just, somebody put you on, or somebody retweeted one of your posts and now you're this personality or whatever. They don't know the sleepless nights and the tears and the things that you've cried because you have this story within you that you have to get out. It's not an option. Like, these things that you have to get out. And this stuff is years in the making. You just didn't start doing this yesterday. You said you've been doing readings and stuff like that for like 20 years now? You've been doing it for a long time.
It's grown. Yeah. I mean, I have to carry like a full-time job as like a landscaper. I did it on the
do it
side.
when you get home. Yeah.
I eventually like had my whole mission and everything take over. Now it's my full-time job, just like you. But it wasn't like that. And there's nothing glamorous about it. So even if a person looks at it with envy, there's targeting, there's having to dive into information that you have to figure out how to articulate that is so disturbing. You have to really reach into like the positive message. And if people think it pays well, no, I mean, but most of the stuff I do is for free. I go to events. They're not big money makers. There are ways to create more abundance.
Yeah.
So once you're in it, because there has to be some sort of balance, but, I get a lot of criticism, when you're part of the Eisenhower family, we don't have trust funds. Eisenhower didn't sell himself out to the Illuminati. We all have to work our butts off. I wasn't born into any wealth. I mean, we even grew up going to thrift stores. I mean, my Ike's son, my grandfather, helped us every once in a while, but it's not like we're a presidential family sitting on a bunch of wealth. So there's a lot of projections that can create emotions that aren't necessary. You know, we really all got to know each other. We got to know we're in it together. We signed up for different roles in different parts. But if a person feels like they're not really playing their role, then look outside of yourself for inspiration, not envy. Because if you feel it in you and that's where you want to go, that's where you're meant to go. Allow inspiration. And gosh, some people go into such bitterness and envy, and it's just like, I don't think you realize. But it's okay. That's why we're here talking about it. And
I mean, the loss of friends.
Sessions. What's that?
You know, the loss of friends, like having good friends that once you reach a certain level, they can't go with you there. You know, you know, bitterness kicks into them. Like these people that you've been friends with for so long, and then they're bitter, they're envious, they don't know how to act now that you're getting attention or whatever. And all of these different reasons, man, where your friends are just falling off. You can't bring them with you to the next levels. That's not easy.
Nope. Yeah, I probably had 2 friends before Facebook. I mean, not, and I wasn't even known. People just couldn't handle my information.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I was also raising kids by myself, and so it didn't give me much of a social life. But and then when I started to become public, some people were like, "Oh my gosh, okay," and would come to me like, "Oh, geez, now I kind of get what you were all about in high school," because I won most out of touch with reality for the senior class. But then a lot of people were, I mean, nobody was really there anyway. But as I joined social media and I started to post and I started to become public, it definitely also created that where a lot of people just walked the other way and just didn't like it. So, you know, don't let other people's, the way that they perceive you determine your own self-worth. I mean, I look at it like we're in a parade, we're throwing stuff out to the crowd. We just need to keep moving forward. If we jump off and we see what they're doing with it, like, are you eating it? Are you putting it in your pocket? Are you stepping on it? Are you throwing it at somebody? Then we lose our ability to stay focused. You know, a lot of people pay too much attention to what everybody else thinks, that they're not moving forward and just planting seeds and sharing information. Everybody who's listening to this has something to offer your friends and your family. But again, you know, you got to feel into who's ready, who's not. So, you know, we don't want to get into battles and conflicts. So there's an art to kind of like, you know, how to wake people up, but there's always something that people can do. And that's kind of the nature of what the readings can be. Like, what did you come in? What's important for you in this lifetime to complete and achieve?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any excuse, because the majority of us have one of these. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, I'm holding up a smartphone. There's really no excuse. You can create whatever you want to create, whether it's a persona, whatever. If you want to start a YouTube channel that bakes muffins and cooks ramen noodles in weird ways, anything you can think of, like, you can make a living doing it. You can find ways to get people to support you or pay you, or once you get a big enough audience, you can have advertisers, things like that. There's no excuse because we all have this. The internet, if we take advantage of it, it's changing the game. And you don't, I mean, anything, whatever you want to do, like, you can reach the world through this phone here. And so I don't think there's any excuse for any of us to be like, oh, you have a shot or you have this or whatever. Create it. If it's not there and there's a need, create it. And then that's when the people come. That when you see a need and then you fulfill it, whatever role it is, whatever you want to do, even if nobody's ever heard of it. What is a global alchemist? Well, let me show you. I'm going to show you what one is. You haven't seen, stick around. You're going to find out what it is and what we do. And it's essentially it, man. One last question. Someone in the chat was saying something about spiritually, those who are so going into the ethers and the astral realms and meditation and talking to fairies and aliens and all this stuff. They basically alluded that was a form of escapism and that it's doing a disservice to spirit because they would rather be in the now moment and be present and enjoy this life. It's not a cop-out. I think that comment is kind of a cop-out, but to understand how it's a relationship, the spiritual aspect of not being so spiritual that you're no earthly good, but being so spiritual that you're earthly incredible, really, to be able to tap in, tune in, go into the ethers, find out who you are, find out what you want to do, get the game plan, connect with your higher power, the angels, the guides, whatever that is. that's the way we're created, that genetic makeup. Something is happening there. It's not just fantasy, la la land, I created and in my mind, and so it is. Something's going on. Where's the connection there as far as being so spiritual, but then we bring it down so that we're impactful and it's in our knowledge is practical, that it has the power to change lives and help people who are suffering with depression, who people who don't have friends, this type of stuff, to make it practical. Where's the connection there with that for you?
Well, I said that earlier, about integrating higher and lower self. I mean, yeah, we can't just be out there or so grounded in earth-based that we shut ourselves off. I mean, we're only denying ourselves the fullness of our multidimensional body. I mean, we want to be whole. The ether is an element, just like earth, air, fire, water. Ether is a part of the cosmos, which is a part of the earth. The earth energies have different harmonic universes. Gaia is multidimensional. This earth is multidimensional. It was seeded with a 13-dimensional core, but it ended up being programmed into a 3D planet. But there was a sphere that was morphed into the core that represented a part of the mother energy that actually left because of all the wars. It got ungrounded, wasn't able to be in the body. And in this ascension window period, it's been grounded back into the earth body, which activates the diamond sun DNA. And I have a lot of research on this. I do presentations about it. So even though I'm just saying it quickly, people might be like, well, what's that all about? Well, that's all just BS. I mean, when we get super grounded into the earth, I think it opens us up. I mean, I did not choose to be out of my body most of my life. I was out of my body for about 20 years. I had to go get help to get into my physical body.
Yeah.
I needed a lot of help because I was out there. It was like one person at the Clairvoyant Institute said that I actually died, and I went through the whole journey that a soul goes through when they die, but I was able to maintain my physical through my Kundalini and bringing in other guides to help run my body that were similar enough to me in agreement with what I'm in agreement to, so that I wouldn't have something negative come in. I mean, I was like a crazy astral traveler. It's not really a choice. So to say like, oh, well, that's escapism. Okay, well, I guess I was born in escapism mode, but where was I escaping to? I was working on, well, they told me I was clearing wormholes from inorganic entities. I was like, okay, yeah, actually you're right, because that is what I was doing. I wasn't really sure. I was just a kid and I was growing up. I was a teenager, and then I was an adult that realized I can't get into my body. What have I been doing? What is this about? And I knew, but I needed the clarity too. And they gave me the clarity. So, I mean, everybody's built differently. Some people are completely shut off. That's all BS. Those things don't exist. And okay, fine. I mean, that's kind of a limitation. I knew that I was missing something. I could admit it. I need to be in my body. I need to be present here. I need to be on earth. So as I started to come back into my body, I was able to just learn things like astrology, things about the earth grids, things that are very much about the here and now. You can be in the astral and connecting with fairies and guides and still be in the now. How is that not being in the now? How is that escaping anything? I mean, if we wake up in the matrix every day and we're answering to mind control programs, social engineering, that's a worse form of escapism, because that's not even authentic. That's something that is telling us how to think and how to be. So if whoever made that comment is a completely free spirit that is just living a life that has nothing to do with television or movies or programming, right on. But I don't know how you're being a sovereign, authentic being without recognizing your multidimensional self. The goal is to be grounded here in the now, awakened to all that we are. But we can't do it all at once, because there's a process where there's different stages of development, just like as a plant grows, just as a child grows up. As a humanity, there are different stages of development. I started off in the ether, though. Now I'm back on earth. So I know those realms are real. And but at the same time, when you look at a planet like Neptune, which is a planet related to our multidimensional energy, it also rules the creative imagination. Where do you think we create from? Where do you think anything manifested out of? But the great cosmic imagination. That's why there's so much diversity in nature. I mean, look at the oceans, the octopus. I mean, it's like the insect kingdom. There's thousands and millions of species. I mean, that came out of somebody's imagination. So our spirituality and our clairvoyance has a lot to do with the creative imagination. But what we have to check is it distorted? Are there distortions in our imagination, which can lead to being haunted, being in fear, creating delusions that don't serve us because it's not in alignment with the frequency of our physical body.
Yeah.
So when we're healthy in our physical body, our creative imagination is healthy, and vice versa. If
Yeah.
our creative imagination is healthy, our physical body's healthy. They go hand in hand. Energy is the precursor or the predecessor to physicality. Energy happens first. So if you have a lot of pain and fear and trauma, your physical body's going to reveal it and show it through physical symptoms. But if you're energetically clear, your physical body's probably going to be a lot healthier. And if you take good care of your physical body, more than likely when you go into your dream realm, you're having better experiences than somebody who's toxic.
Yeah.
So there's no separation between the ether, the astral, our physicality, and what's beyond the ether, which is 0 point. And the actual earth energies in the core of this earth connects us with the 0 point. And I have a lot of information on this. So, you know, if anybody wants to send me an email, like I want to see that information and some real articulate, intelligent communication about it, you know, I can supply that to you.
Yeah. I think it's part of it is like being a true shaman, as one who's able to go through the ethers, one who's, and when we talk about go through the ethers, what does that mean? You can go to sleep every night. All of us have to put our head on our pillows, and then the DMT is released into our pineal gland, and we go into the ethers and astral travel and get premonitions, all kinds of stuff. But it's about being a shaman is to be able to go into those realms and pull out the information and make it manifest. I mean, whether you're an artist, whether anything that you're creating. I'm on this kick right now. You're talking about the imagination, all of this stuff coming out of something's imagination, whether it's a creator, God, or whatever. But us being as little creators, when we create, we kind of give glory back to that infinite creator, and we're made in the image and likeness of that creator. Whatever we create, if I create a song, I have to go into the ethers. I have to go in here, experience, put all this stuff together, and then birth something that never existed. If you're putting together a seminar, a webinar, okay, this webinar don't exist until you build it, until you brand it, until you birth it, a picture, a painting, whatever it is. All of that is part of the spiritual alchemy, is going into those ethers and making it manifest. Something that didn't exist. This podcast did not exist. Not, you know, all of this stuff didn't exist until we created it. And that's part of it, is just learning how to do that. You can have all the dreams you want and all the fantasies and this dream life and a dream husband, dream wife, dream career, whatever. It's going to be a dream unless you set goals and you understand how to do the alchemy of grabbing that stuff out of here, out of the ether, and birthing it into the now moment. So I think they work hand in hand.
Exactly.
Laura,
And that's so well put. Bravo.
I appreciate you coming on. Go ahead and share your links again. Let people know about what you got coming up, and maybe they'll go over there and subscribe to what you have going on over there at the website.
Yeah, so cosmicgaia.org. You can subscribe at the bottom of the page. If you go to the bookings page, you don't want to subscribe, there's all sorts of sessions and readings just to help you really know who you are and what makes you know, just, I already kind of explained it, not to kind of promote, but it just seemed to fit into what we were talking about as far as my offerings, because all this is very important for people to just really be who they are. The events I have coming up should be listed on the website. It should be all updated. So that's cosmicgaia.org. I have Dimensions of Disclosure mid-August with folks like Corey Good, Emery Smith, and David Wilcock. So that'll be interesting after all the Gaia stuff. Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Laura Eisenhower. And I keep things pretty updated just as best as I can. And I've really enjoyed being on. This is a great conversation. And thanks everybody for listening.
All right, Laura, we'll have to do it again soon. Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, thank you as well. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Laura Eisenhower, great-granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Really good discussion. I've been trying to make this happen for a while. We finally got her on as a guest. I enjoyed it, man, so much. She is, I mean, we could have just named almost any subject, and she's like a walking encyclopedia. She has so much information on all of this stuff. We could have just talked about crystals probably for the whole hour. We could have talked about astrology, and talking about astrology, man, she knows her stuff. I love listening to her go on other people's shows and just go in on astrology and the planets and Saturn. What does Saturn mean and how does it relate back to us? And all the planets, like we're going through that alchemy as well. Like we're going through the planetary allegory, essentially. She's got a lot of information on that stuff, way more than me. And I love to kind of have people on who are studied in other realms, and we can just roll ideas off of one another to get to the bottom of this stuff, right? That's what we have to do. We have to be able to bring our piece to the table, a piece of the puzzle, put it down. Laura brings hers. Corey Good brings his. Christy Lee brings hers. Whatever. We all bring our pieces of the puzzle, and we're like, look, we're starting to see something here. A picture is starting to form. That's really what it's about, man. It's about, I don't think any one person has the truth. I think that they have their truth, and that they can bring their truth to the table, and hopefully that truth is something that can help you, that can heal you, and bring forth right knowledge and understanding in whatever place you are in your life. That's what this podcast exists for, and I'm bragging. It's thriving. You guys are listening and you're resonating with something. You guys are supporting. Like, something is up. I'm doing something right. Whatever it is, I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to keep doing it. Chris Barr says, where can I find her on podcast, TruthSeekah? I don't know about podcasts. I'm sure she's been interviewed before. So if you go to wherever you listen to podcasts and look up her name, I'm sure there's podcast episodes. You're definitely going to find her all over YouTube. But definitely look her up. Man, your dreams, manifesting them, bringing them into this reality, being a shaman, being able to travel the realms. I mean, it is practical. We make it sound esoteric and beautiful. That's my job, because I think it is esoteric and beautiful. I think that it is intriguing and sparks wonder and awe and all of these things. Anything spiritual, anything practical. But it's a part of going into the dream state, or just having a thought. Let's just, going in and grabbing that thought and bringing it out. And think of that, though. Something, no matter what it is, that didn't exist until you created it. If you didn't create it, nobody would benefit from it. Nobody would be able to see it or experience it. But since you did the due diligence, the hard work that pays off. I mean, your whole life is this, though. Like, your whole life is alchemy. People are getting to see, like, on a public scale, most of the time, they're getting to see the good stuff. They haven't seen the bad stuff. They haven't seen the base stuff that you went through, of the years of regret and mistakes and trials and error, trying this, doing that. And they haven't seen the heartache and the discouragement. They just see the well-polished you, the well-spoken you. You know what I'm saying? Look at any of these people. Look at Laura Eisenhower. Look at, go back and listen to early versions of the TruthSeekah podcast. I mean, there's some really early ones that you may even be able to find under different names online. And they were weird, man. We had to learn how to do this stuff. The more you do it, you get better at it, whatever it is. If it's astral traveling, if it's leaving your body, if it's meditation, if it's contacting ETs, like, whatever it is, if it's doing music, go listen to early TruthSeekah music. Oh my God. I'm 200 songs in. Go listen to song number 1 and 2. You know what I'm saying? Quantity eventually produces quality. And the more that you do something, you have to train yourself. Playing basketball, playing a sport, you get better, you build endurance, you learn tricks of the trade, you learn new moves, new things that you can add to your arsenal. All of this stuff, creating what you want for yourself. And it's such a blessing. Like I said, if it didn't exist until you created it, I don't care what it is. If, like I said, my tattoo artists, like, those guys are doing beautiful work, man. Like, that tattoo didn't exist until I went in there and thought about it and connected with this person and networked with them and love my tattoos. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, man, we are really, I believe we're made in the image and likeness of a creator, and we emanate that. And I think the highest form of worship, man, is when we do what we are put here to do and we resonate at that higher level, man. Something that didn't exist. Whatever it is, go out there and paint a picture. Or you're a painter, write a poem. Something, man, you can do it. You can birth it. A job, a career, a need. If you create a need, if you fill a need, people will pay you for that. Like, if you can bring something to the table that people need or people want, people will pay you for that. The internet is so powerful. You can create whatever you want, even on a website. Like I said, talk about planting seeds to fulfill your destiny, whatever, planting seeds, sowing seeds, whatever that is. Comes in the form of sending emails, starting Instagrams, starting website, blogging, writing a blog. Create something, man. Birth it. Use your phone. Use your whatever. There's so many free resources, man, out there that you can use. And it's alchemy. You get better. You get money and buy better equipment. You get a good camera. You get a good microphone. Whatever. You want to start a podcast. You got something to share with people. Are you entertaining? Are you funny? Whatever you want to do, you can do it, and then you can thrive and make a living doing it as well. I try to be as open and honest as I can with you guys, from the pitfalls and the things that work and the things that didn't work. And I if you're just listening for entertainment, I don't think this is an entertainment podcast. I'm just trying to give you the game. I'm letting you know you're playing the game. Most of you don't understand the rules, whether we're talking about universal law, whatever we're talking about seed time and harvest, karma, all of these laws, man, that whatever you put out, you're going to get back. We talk about this all the time. You want support, you got to support people. You want love, you got to find somebody and love on them. You know what I'm saying? Like Chris Garner says he's entertained. Yeah, but I think you're doing it too. I don't think this is just for you to listen to. I want you to I want to say that in the right manner. I want you to be moved to jealousy. I want you to, in everything that I do. The Bible says, I make you the envy of all nations, that they'll want what you got. I want you to want. I think I got what you want. I think I have that in many aspects. People are in different places, man. Wherever you are listening to this, if I'm talking to the young Derek, I'm talking to the young truth seeker driving the truck. Hey, man, do it, bro. You can do it, man. Don't give up. You can do it, man. Send that email, Derek. Come on, I'm about to cry talking about this. You could do it, bro. Don't give up. I'm saying that to you guys, man. You can do it. Don't give up. Whatever it is. I don't know. Like, this isn't the model. This isn't, whatever it is, man. You want to start a YouTube channel with your family vlogging? You can do it. You can do it full time. Do it, man. Make it happen. Well, I got kids. Me too. Do you, man. Understand what it is. Manifest it. Be consistent. Chris Bars, he's repeating what I say. Consistency is key. I can continue to name those friends who aren't consistent. They're changing with the wind. The Bible says don't be pushed around by every wind of doctrine. I say don't be pushed around by every wind of new idea. Get your idea. Man, we could totally do something. I could start a podcast. I got so many cool people in my circle, man. And I would love, I can go out there in the ether. I can think about starting a podcast with each one of these people. I could do a podcast with this person. I could do it. So I'd rather just start my own podcast and get them to come on and have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? But you only have so many hours in the day to make something happen. We have the same amount of time. We only have 24 hours. But what you do with that time, you can't get it back. You can't get that time back. Time wasted. You can't get it back. So just make sure that you're taking advantage of the time to send the emails, to create the goal, to write it down, get a vision, make it plain. If you write down your goals, just by writing them down, you're 70 to 90% more likely to achieve them just by writing them down. A to-do list. I have a honey-do list right here for those of you watching. I have a honey-do list. Don't read it. It's stuff I have to do that my wife wrote for me. And since she wrote them down, I'm consciously aware. Okay, gotta make that happen. Gotta do this. I'm consciously aware of it versus forgetting about it. I got so much stuff going on. It's easy to forget. So if you write this stuff down, man, even something just a reminder, get the vision, write it down, make it plain. 70 to 90% more able or apt to fulfilling it, whatever that is. Get those people in your life who are going to help you. Get people who are feeding that dream. Y'all carrying other people. You guys are empathic, and you're letting other people dictate your feelings and emotions. Man, get those people out your life. People, you're dealing with toxic people who don't have anything to contribute to your relationship. They don't have nothing to give. They just want. They take. They judge, they criticize. Get those people out your life. Why are you entertaining it? Do you just, like, what is it? Like, you can thrive and deal with without those people, right? Like, if they're not contributing something good, somebody, because they're talking those type of people out of your life. Somebody mentioned in the chat section a couple of weeks ago, it was like, what do you want? Just yes men in your corner? You want just people who are just like stroking your ego, just telling you yes, and not questioning you? No, it's not about that. Not about that, but it's about those people who do it with etiquette, with grace. And I'll talk about, like, me and my buddy, Chris Barnes in the comment. We're talking about people who call you out, who challenge you, who think that you're in error, who think that you're doing it the wrong way. And they try to, like, make a spectacle out of you on an open platform. Like, they'll use Facebook or something like that to expose you, or whatever the case is, to call you out, set you straight. They do it on an open platform. They'll maybe make videos or whatever the case is. That's not love, man. Brotherly love, sisterly love. Like, you have to come to that person in private. The scriptures even tell you to do that. Go to that person in private. You got people that's putting all of your personal stuff out there on the on the internet. They're just, doing all that stuff. That's not good. That's not good. Especially, like, conversation. You can have people screenshotting conversations. People screenshotting stuff that you've told them in private or through Messenger, and then they share it out there with the world. Man, these people are cutthroat out here, and you got to learn. Get people in your life who love you and who support you, and make it happen, man. Oh, I just got a donation live from my good friend Christy, folks. Thank you, Christy, for that. You rock. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you, everyone, for your support, supporting my work and what I'm bringing to the table. And like I said, it's I think it's resonating with some people. So I'm gonna play it. Thank you. Thank you for the donation, Christy, and everybody else who has been donating and helping and encouraging. All of that good stuff. Get those toxic people out of your life, man. Find people who support you, who believe in you, who are rooting for you, not working against you. They're out there. You're in a situation, in a group of people where you're just being tolerated. You're just being tolerated. Don't go where you're tolerated. Go where you're needed. Go where you're wanted. And there's a place out there for you. Like, you just think that this is it, because you've been doing it for so long. You better change. You better get a change of scenery. Find your tribe. I love my tribe. I love you guys. I really do. For those of you, Christy Lee did leave a comment right when we went live, and she's beckoning you, Christy folks. I mean, beckoning people to join Discord. That's where our tribe is. We hang out on Discord throughout the week. That's for patrons, and that's just for people who need community, want like-minded people to talk to throughout the week. There's voice chat, there's text messaging. It's a really cool app on your phone or on your computer. I try to jump in there as much as I can. If I'm working on a song, if I'm doing graphic art, if I'm getting stuff ready for a podcast, I'll try to jump in there and chat. We jump in there. We just listen to music. We've been listening to music all morning, chatting on there. A lot of people who are on here. So if you're looking for community, the link is in the description. It says Discord. Get it on your phone or get it on your computer. It's voice chat and it's typing. Some people are, weird about jumping into voice chat. I stay on voice chat. I don't try to type too much. So if you don't see me commenting, I'm always watching y'all's conversations, man. Keeping an eye on y'all. So yeah, if you're looking for community, make sure you take advantage of this technology. Like I said, we don't have an excuse. I feel alone, man. I have nobody to talk to. You're a liar. You are a liar. You're lying. Discord. You got a whole community, a family of people who are looking to help you, to encourage you, to equip you, and just to say what's up, just to say how you're doing. If you need prayer, any of that stuff, we got a team of people, man. Beautiful, beautiful community that's growing and that's thriving. I mean, we go on vacations together. We take trips. We're all kinds of cool stuff, man. You got to get with the program. Don't say you don't have nobody to talk to. Don't say you don't have nobody to encourage you. Like, we have tools. We have radio shows. We have podcasts. We encourage you, equip you. This is what a community is. It takes a community. So hop on Discord. The link is in the description. It's free. You can get it on your phone or your computer. It's a community to thrive with. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. With that being said, I'm going to say peace and shalom. Again, thank you guys for supporting the work. And you guys, I talk about creating this. Yes, I showed up. I created this. I did a lot of stuff to make this happen. I did my own research. I've watched interviews and podcasts, all that stuff to get inspired to make this happen. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be possible without you guys. Thank you guys for co-creating this with me. This Laura Eisenhower interview that we just did, this encouragement that I tried to share at the end of this show, it's lighting a fire under your butt, lighting a fire in your heart, man, to get up and do something, man, to breathe upon that fire. Spoken word, prophetically, call it out of you. Breathe upon that fire like Jesus breathed upon his disciples. I'm trying to breathe the breath of life over you to encourage you to seek your calling, seek your vision, whatever it is, do it, make it come to pass. I couldn't do it without your help and support, so we created this together. It wouldn't exist without you. So again, thank you guys who have been supporting via Patreon and other donations and things like that. Thank you guys for praying for me, lifting me up in prayer, being there when I need someone to talk to, giving me advice. Thank you for being a part of my life. And yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you guys for being in the chat too. Those of you who can't support, like just being here, making this, a collective experience. Thank you guys for listening to this and continuing to listen and continuing to tell people about it. Everybody, man. Everybody plays a part, and I'm thankful. And I want you to do what you are called to do, what you are put here to do. And if you don't, I'm going to be mad. You're doing it wrong. Love you guys. Join us for the after party over in Discord. Link is in the description. Love you guys. Peace and shalom, shalom.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.